This is Gary Kayye. We're at ISE 2014, and every year, annually for the last 3 years, I've been fortunate enough to have a casual conversation with Wolfgang Lenz, of course, of COMM-TECH. Everybody knows who he is. COMM-TECH's obviously put a lot of manufacturers on the map in Europe. I mean, it's more than a distributor. Actually, COMM-TECH was a partner that launched a lot of brands. Actually, is really what you did, and you've done it. You've set up an organization that is enviable by every distributor around the world. I think distributors in the U.S. and in Asia and Europe all wish they could have the type of structure that you have and the type of success and quality that you've put out. So first of all, congratulations, and thanks for sitting down with me.
Thanks for the compliments, appreciate it. And we are now in our 28th year, and we hope to still continue our strategy in representing more and more manufacturers who can't afford or don't want to be present by themselves in Europe. Okay.
And you're even representing some manufacturers that can afford, but they need your help. I mean, quite honestly, let's be honest, there's some manufacturers that and I don't know if you want to mention names, but they've asked you to sort of help in certain countries where you've gone in and actually bought distributors and changed them to the COMM-TECH brand and have helped them be successful where they're having problems.
Well, it's certainly true. We about a year ago, we started to get involved much more with Barco. Barco is present in almost all European countries, not only European, on a global basis as well. But we have some resources which they don't have, and we believe, and they also believe that we have better access to certain market segments. So we somehow joined forces, and I must say the relationship with Barco is excellent. We like to work with them and for them, and we hope to continue this for quite some years to come.
I think that's the reason why a few of the countries most recently that you've expanded is specifically to help Barco in those countries, and obviously that's worked. I'd like to talk to you about, I mean, where you sit now, and I know that you are trying to shift to not have to do anything, but at the same time, as you said to me when we first sat down, you love to work, because that's why you're still working. You have a good vision you have a good understanding, good global vision for where Europe sits with the rest of the world, but also a very good understanding and vision for the positioning within Europe, because Europe's not one country. Europe's a whole bunch of small countries that aren't always working together. But what I'd love to know is sort of your impressions of where you think 2014 is going to fall. Is it going to be an up year? Is it going to be a flat year? Or is it going to be a down year?
Well, I guess everybody understands that Europe is not a big country like the United States. It's a group of very different economies. And I guess everybody has recognized that the Southern European countries are not doing very well. I personally look at it differently. I believe that Spain is getting back on board, not with dramatic growth rates, but I think we can rely on the future with Spain. Italy and France I look at differently in terms of their mentalities, and unfortunately I have to say that the mentality is very important. And so I do not expect Italy to grow this year, and I have doubts that France will be able to grow. Then Central Europe, let's say Germany, Austria, Switzerland, they have very good economies, and we expect to grow quite substantially. Benelux, I think, is also relatively good. We are not present in the UK. I can't really talk too much about the UK. Scandinavia, I think, has always been very solid. Eastern Europe, I must point out that Poland is experienced some very good growth. The other countries are either very small or the economy is not that important.
Yeah. Well, so that right there explains why Europe is not a simple market. It's complicated because you've got all these different structures, and you may be using the same money or monetary currency, but they're not represented the same way. What about in the last couple of years especially, there's been a huge shift in the way AV is done. I mean, when you and I were talking together and first made our relationship 20 years ago, it was very different. We were carrying around a lot of cables with color coding, and now everything is on the network. It's really changed a lot in the last couple of years. How has that market shift affected sort of everything that's going on here? I mean, obviously technologically there's been a shift, but hasn't it shifted the kind of people that we're seeing coming in this industry and the kind of people we're seeing that we have to hire as within our organizations as well?
Well, looking at it from a distributor's point of view, I believe that we have to differentiate between generic or commodity products and complex products. COMM-TECH always aimed for marketing and distribution of more complex products, so everything we could add value. When it comes to generic products, then the mass distribution takes over, and we can't compete with them. So it's up to the manufacturers who they want to use. In terms of requirements on the systems integrators side, in terms of the skills of the people required, yes, there has been a shift. And sometimes I get the impression that the manufacturers are thinking too far ahead and nobody can really follow. This also applies to a number of end users. So we need to get help from bodies, and in this case I'd like to point out Infocomm. I think Infocomm has a great responsibility to the AV world to help the people using AV products to understand the future. The large corporations, the end user, they have their own facilities, they have their own people, they go to shows, but the majority of all these companies don't have an opportunity, or they're not willing to spend time at shows, and we need to find a way to teach them how to deal with the future.
You bring up a really interesting point. Your point about manufacturers showing something that in some cases can't actually be accomplished, like it's almost too complicated in the way that they're showing something. And I agree with you on Infocomm. The Infocomm, and I think Infocomm's doing that. I think they're trying to do that. Their education and certification programs are moving that direction. But I think globally they can do a better job, and I think they recognize that. They had a press conference a couple of days ago where they talked about how they're expanding their education and certification in Europe, and hopefully you'll be a part of that, or hopefully COMMTECH will be a part of that.
Well, I had a quick meeting this morning with some high-level people from Infocomm, and I pointed out what I repeat now. I think that Infocomm has been in the past an American body. We look at the market from a global point of view, and there's a lot of room to move and to improve. And I got the impression that it was well accepted, and there's a lot to see in the future.
Yeah, I agree. I served on the Infocomm board, and I actually served on the Professional Education Training Committee for 12 years. And you're right, it definitely has historically been, but I think the current people in Infocomm are definitely moving in that direction. I do have a question. You expanded into Hong Kong recently, and that's a very different market. I mean, what is the difference, if you could sum it up, between dealing with clients in Hong Kong and Asian countries versus dealing with clients in Europe? Is there any difference, or is it a substantially different philosophy?
Let's put it that way. There are no special products made for Asia. The difference is the people, as usual. People make the difference, and I would not attempt at all to run a company in Asia myself. You need to have the right people there, and I was lucky enough to hire a well-established individual who used to work with AMX in Hong Kong. His name is Chris Yang. Some people may know him, and I'm very, very happy to have him on board. He has a very, very good network, and without that, nobody would be successful in Asia. So we have just started. We'll see what will happen. The main reason to go there is obviously the growth, the expectation on growth. And if you look at the most recent Infocomm studies, it actually verifies this, that the market growth in Asia is much bigger than in Europe. So we would like to participate in this kind of growth areas.
I agree with you.
A very logical step for us.
It definitely logical the way that you think, not logical the way that we think, because like you say, that Infocomm's an American, sort of focused American. I had always thought about, prior to you entering into Hong Kong, as you being a very European-focused company, but now you're an international. So what about the United States? Are you looking at that?
Not for the time being, but I will never say never on that. I want to add a little bit to what I said earlier relative to Infocomm. I think that Europe is very difficult for a body like Infocomm. We not only have one language, we have different mentalities, and quite different mentalities. And what we really need is more public relations to motivate end users to understand AV. This has been done in America, and I also recognize that at Infocomm you find many, many more end users than compared to ISE. So I think there's a lot of room to improve, and we'd like to help to improve here.
And when you speak end users, you're talking about facility managers, you're talking about IT managers, you're talking about AV buyers. You're not talking about, yes, I agree with you. And I'm glad that you met with them, because I think, as I said, I think Dave Labuscus and his team are sharp, and I think they want to have a better presence here, and they recognize that they're in the best position to provide that. And I think the announcement they made a couple of days ago will move in that direction. So I hope that you'll help them, because I think with your organization behind them, I think that you can help them quite a bit. So, well, I really appreciate you taking the time again this year, and I'll do the same thing again next year if you're willing. And I appreciate your willingness to share and be honest about the differences in not only culture but also in technology. And one last quick question to wrap things up. Is there any one product here, or any one technology that's impressed you that you've walked around the show floor? Is there something that you want to mention?
It's still ClickShare from Barco.
Yeah, it's the ClickShare. It's funny that you say that. I mean, I think everyone watching knows that that's been one of my favorite products over the last few years, and it's a simple, integratable product, which is what's nice. It's integratable into existing systems and new systems, and it's simple to use for the consumer side, but still the customer side, but still requires integration into a system. So, congratulations, and thanks again.
Thank you.
And you have
give me the opportunity to let you know my vision.
Well, listen, have a prosperous 2014. And this has been Gary. This is Gary Kayye. We've been had a nice talk here with Wolfgang Lenz, the whatever his position is, founder, chairman, and everything, everything for not only COMM-TECH, but also he established in many ways the Pro AV industry over here in Europe. So thanks for watching, but keep watching, because we got a lot more to do.
You can call it